Hello, I hope everyone's doing well, or as well as they can be. Thanks for listening today. So, this week, I just wanted to do a little sharing about my week and some of the energies of the week. So, I went to service and did the platform at Unity this past Sunday. And there was a man there who played the violin so beautifully, and another man on the piano, and another friend on the bass, which he himself carved and put together many pieces. And afterwards we talked a little bit, and another friend came up and started talking to him, and he expressed how the violin is actually the closest sound to the human pitch. So I thought that was interesting, that the violin sounds the closest to the human pitch, to the human voice. And then we started discussing the empty space of the instruments, the string instruments themselves. They have so much empty space, and they are a certain shape so that they produce a certain sound. And inside those shapes, there are all these vortexes that get produced and that put out the pitch. And I mentioned how perhaps we are like this empty space, which at times creates vortexes and puts out certain pitches, or in our case, let's call them frequencies. There was a reverend there who spoke about generosity and to be magnanimity. To be magnanimity, that's pretty amazing to think about, because a lot of us view things from a place of how we are, not how things truly are, which is really something to ponder. But the fact is, and this was from a Tao teaching, that we are all receiving the same rays of the same sun, and we are all receiving the same rain from the clouds. We can't pick and choose. It's just whoever is under the sun receives the rays. Whoever is under the clouds receives the rain. It's equality. And it's not of our choosing. It just is. Many of us, when we have conversations, do we listen to listen? Or while we are listening, are we already forming an opinion, a thought, or something to express? So while we do that, as right now, while I'm speaking, are you forming something in rebuttal, or are you truly listening to what I'm saying? Because when you start forming things to respond or rebuttal, then you can't fully hear what is being said. How can you take it in when you're already trying to give it back out? Being receptive is not so easy, but it can be if we allow it to be. But it can be difficult if we choose it to be difficult. These are choices we have to consciously make. We have a eclipse coming up this Saturday. I can check that date. Saturday, December 4th. So, right now we are in, or we will be in Sagittarius for this eclipse. Sagittarius is adventurous and explorer. It creates opportunities It allows for creativity. It lightens the spirit. It's happy and playful. So all these things are being looked at right now. But it's the eclipse itself is really a time of purging and purifying. And this cycle will continue for at least the next 6 months. But truly, are we not always purging and purifying? But we can't do it all at once. It's little bits at a time. If we try to do too much at once, we get a burnout, and it's not good for us. We have to learn to allow patience. So right now there's a feeling of much aliveness, a sense of adventure and exploring. Even though it is winter time, it's still that feeling in the air. Neptune will also play a role and has been playing a role. Neptune has been direct since 2015 and will be that way until 2025. So 3 more years of that. Neptune deals with dreams, fantasy, faith, perhaps even the future. So there's a lot of hidden truths and illusion around Neptune energy. And this Saturday we'll have the new moon and the solar eclipse. So see what comes up for you. Some good things to think about perhaps around this time would be, am I getting enough sleep? Am I eating foods that are truly nurturing my body? Am I drinking water that is sustaining me, healthy? Am I drinking drinks that maybe aren't so good for my body? Do I allow space for laughing, playfulness, music, nature, meditation, conscious breathing throughout my day? Do I make space for these things every day? A little bit, at least. These are good questions to think of now. I went on a Zen walk this past weekend, and there were 5 of us. And as I was walking, there was no one in front of me at the time, and I was looking around, and there was water on both sides of the path. And as I looked to one side, the water was moving fast, and it was flowing abruptly, and I couldn't see past the surface. And as I looked to the other side, the one part was a little bit slower until it completely settled. As I kept walking, it got still. And when it was still, I saw all the leaves underneath the surface, and I was able to see from the surface to the depth. And in meditation, many times in the past years of practice, my mind would be similar. I wouldn't be able to see past the surface because my thoughts were rushing and racing and moving. And after a while of practice and dedication and discipline, I was able to see beneath the surface, and I was able to see the depth in clarity and have more clarity of mind. And this brought liberation and freedom. And stillness. Stillness. This reminds me of some moose medicine that feels very prominent right now. Moose medicine is self-esteem, great strength. The moose is the largest member of the deer family, and it enjoys sharing, but not sharing for approval, sharing for the joy of sharing, for the spontaneous enjoyment itself. I feel that's what I'm doing right now. Sharing for the enjoyment of sharing. Just my experiences and how I'm seeing life at this time. The depth of the true nature comes forth. Directly Buddha, indirectly Buddha. Jesus said he is the way. And so are we. Moose medicine is like the grandfather warrior who no longer needs his war paint because he's lived and he's walked the red road for many years. And now he has the power of discernment. He knows what to say, when to say it, and whom he may say it to. I am saying this to you. Are you listening? There is a Vajravahari deity. It's Tantric Buddhism in Tibetan Buddhism. And this deity destroys ignorance by dancing. See that little human crushed underneath her foot? By dancing on that human, that's what it's showing. It's destroying the ignorance of. There's a blade in her hand up in the top there by the ring of fire. And that blade symbolizes cutting through illusion. There's a little pig head at the top of her head here. And that symbolizes wisdom over delusion. She kind of has a little bit of fairy energy going. She's a Dakini. And she carries a lot of prana, kundalini, chi, as we all do. And this is her mandala. A mandala is usually something centered with some flowing energy around it. And it symbolizes harmony of some sort. And here, her mandala, the triangle that's pointed down is the female, and the triangle that's pointed up is the male. And it symbolizes harmony in our energy. If you notice her stance here, she's standing similar to the symbol of the swastika, which used to be svastika in Sanskrit, which stands for vital energy. This was before Hitler's time that this symbol emerged. Hitler actually drew it in reverse, so that was the opposite. And you can see that her legs and her arms mimic this symbol. So if you ever come across it in Buddhist teachings, it doesn't stand for the same thing that Hitler decided to turn it into. And what an example of when we view things a certain way, or we make things a certain way, how we view them and associate with them, and how we choose to see that and interpret that and internalize that and integrate that and become that. Those are our choices that we make. I wanted to share an experience I had this past week as well. I was in my car and I was listening to the radio at a park, and I pulled over and it was cold and nobody was really at the park. Well, there were a couple cars there when I got there, but as time passed, they drove away and they weren't there anymore. And I was thinking I should have already been home, but I was distracted a bit and I sat at the park. And After a while, I realized that my car battery had died because my automatic lights were on and I didn't turn them off. I wasn't thinking, and all I was doing was getting kind of distracted by some other things and music and what was going on at that time. And I didn't think about the car lights. So when I went to turn the car on, it wouldn't turn on. And it was the first time that that car had that problem. It's been a long time since my battery died in a car, but I used to have these problems all the time with other cars. So I had jumper cables. But I looked around and there was no one at the park. Everybody had left a long time ago and it was cold. Nobody wanted to come to the park. It wasn't sunny, it was cloudy. I think it might have even rained a little bit. And so I thought again, oh, I should have gone home. And so I laid my seat back and I laid back and I thought, breathe and focus on a solution. Started thinking about maybe I can call someone, but I don't know who. But let me think about who I could maybe call. And then I went in the back and I got out my jumper cables. After just breathing and being with my breath and focusing on a solution. And I calmly dug out the cables from underneath the trunk. And I looked over and there was a man and he had just pulled in to use the restroom. He wasn't there long and I thought I better act. So I walked up to him and I said, "Sir, would you please pull your car over to mine so I can jump my battery off your vehicle?" And he looked at me and he said, "Sure." And I said, "Oh, thank you." And so I walked back to my car and he drove over. He popped his hood, I opened his battery cover, and then I said, "Oh, how about you do this part? It's your car. I don't want to mess anything up." And he's like, "Sure." And I had already hooked up my car, so it was his turn. So he said, he took the black cable and he put it down and he hooked it and he said, "Now, I better ground first because I don't want to blow anything up." Then I thought, wow, are we like that as humans? Should we ground first to Mother Earth so we don't blow up inside ourselves or blow up with anger or frustration? Because in that moment, I could have easily blown up with anger or frustration. I could have beat myself up for what I did, but I didn't. It was a simple mistake. And even though it was cold out and there may have been some concern, I didn't overreact. I didn't blow up. I took a breath. I grounded and centered myself, and a solution presented itself. The spontaneity of that man being there to use the restroom, nobody else was there. Nobody else was coming there. It was getting dark. I was so grateful. I told him, "Bless you," as we closed our hoods. And I never saw him again. And I may never see him again. But I will always be grateful that he said, "Yeah, I'll help you." It's important to have gratitude for those little things. So, that's my sharing for the week. I hope you have a great week. Stay calm, stay centered. In situations that aren't pleasant or planned, remember to breathe, connect with your true nature, and the solution can and will present itself if you allow it the space to do so. Be that open heart, be that open space, be that vast field. Thank you. Be well. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May you be happy. Take care.